Good evening, and thank you for tuning in to interview with DJ Nocturna. Please like, subscribe, and share if you're listening on my YouTube channel, DJ Nocturna, or on my radio show, modsnapradio.com, or on my podcasts, which you can hear on various audio streaming platforms, or just go to djnocturna.com. My guest, so fortunate to have him on the show. He is a true vampire. I should have called this interview with the vampire. He's the bassist and founding member of one of the most influential Gothic rock band, Bauhaus. Please welcome Mr. David J. Thank you, David. Thank you for thank you for yeah, I have to give the proper introduction for a true vampire. Thank you for coming on the show. I know you're busy with so many stuff going on, and I'm so grateful to have you on. You've got a lot of stuff going on actually. You've got Bauhaus coming, touring again.
Yes, sir.
Um, and you got your latest album, What the Patrons Heard. It's going to
Yes.
be released in a couple of weeks. So yeah. So thank you for taking this time. I know uh
As well, the new band
yeah,
like we did
yeah.
with Victor De Lorenzo from Violent Femmes and Darwin.
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah, so yeah, that's another one too. Yeah, in fact, I'm going to be talking to Victor too, Di Lorenzo sometime. And yeah. Okay, well, uh I've been like, as you know, a big fan of Bauhaus. I grew up listening to Bauhaus. They're considered, I guess, the first Gothic record in a flat field. I remember that when that came out in 1979 or 80 on 4AD. Thank you
1980.
so much. Yeah. So, Perry Farrell from Jane's Addiction, described you as the avant of the avant-garde. And I had to look up the actual term and what that meant in French because I wanted to find out what exactly, I look at words and see what they really mean. And that's part of the army that goes out forward ahead of the rest. And that's truly you. I can see that. I can see you as really ahead of your time in your music and in everything you've done so far, including being in the Bauhaus.
That's what it means.
Yeah, yeah. So Bauhaus is such a timeless band, and they've been around since the late '70s. And like I said, big. I mean, I think you've even old goth, what they're called, the older goth kids
Yeah,
and the new ones, they all listen to Bauhaus. Yeah, and that's amazing. Uh, so you're such a diverse artist as well. I know you're influenced by a reggae artist. Um, I don't know if many people know that, but you are influenced by a reggae bassist. His name is Errol Flaba
Hope.
Holt. Yeah, I didn't even know that. Not for
Yeah,
a very long time.
as far as my bass playing goes, yes, and dub reggae was very influential on Bauhaus because it was where we come from, Northampton. There's a big Rastafarian community there,
Mm,
and they would have these sound system events in this big hall, and they would have competing DJs, and they would have toasting contests where they pass the mic around, and it's sort of like freestyling, but it's like a kind of rap, but it's over the dub plates as they called them, which came directly from Jamaica, and you could only hear reggae like that and that loud in those environments. We used to go in there. We were actually the only four white guys in there.
oh yeah.
But after initial, like the first time, we got a few funny looks, but they soon sussed out that we were not there to cause any trouble, quite the reverse. And we were accepted, and then we got to be known, and we had a great time there. That was a really special period. That was in the late 70s. And reggae was very big in England at that time because a lot of the West Indians came over to England in the 50s. And then, their kids grew up in England and brought the music, and the music had been brought over. And there's always that connection. You know, if you
Mhm.
think somebody like Don Letts at the
Yeah.
time when punk was happening, Don, who was a friend of ours, actually co-directed the Bauhaus Telegram sound video.
Mhm.
Don was really instrumental as a DJ. He was a DJ at the Roxy in London. And there weren't that many, he would say this himself, there weren't that many records that he could play as far as punk records were concerned when it started. So he would fill out his sets with reggae and especially dub.
Yeah.
Really sort of, that became very influential on a lot of musicians, you know, you think of like The Clash and bands like that. So it seeped in, you know. I mean, Bela Lugosi's Dead would not exist in its form as it is without dub reggae.
Yeah.
It's just,
Wow.
it's not trying to be, you know, cod Jamaican reggae, but it's really being influenced and taking that sound, and it's really abstract music. It's like Eno described it as pure abstraction, because you are taking from a source and you're stripping it down and you're taking out elements and you are making it abstract. You're making something new out of an original piece. So we were applying that to our own sound and our own
Yeah.
cultural background, you know.
Yeah. I mean, you've always been really diverse. I mean, you've been, I mean, from what I've, you know, since I've known you, you've always known like all range, different types of music, which I always thought it wasn't just a one.
Very, very curious, you know. I just have the antennae up and I just let things catch my ear and my imagination,
Mhm.
and then I dive in, you know, if I'm sufficiently, you know, turned on by whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. In fact, you were the first member of Bauhaus, right, to release your solo work outside of the band, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. And I don't know, if, I could be wrong, but it was that the first collaboration with Renee Halkett?
Yeah, I actually did that when I was in the band in
Okay.
1981. Yeah, and that was the first.
Yeah.
First.
Yes. So that's wonderful. You know, I know that that is such a collectible. I know that I don't even know if you can get that anymore from the when it was released initially.
I think it's.
Um,
Look, I have Renee up on my. You see that? You see
oh,
Renee?
there, yeah, and that's your loot, isn't it? Did you inherit that loot?
Self-portrait that I inherited when he passed.
Did you inherit a loot as well? His
It's
loot?
a guitar. It's a cross between a lute and a guitar.
Oh, you did, right?
Yes, it's
Oh,
Renee.
okay.
It dates from back to 1860.
Yeah. Have you used that to play?
I have used it one time and one time only, when I did the 20th anniversary reissue of the Renee Halkett project. And Renee had sent me a cassette tape with the two spoken word pieces that appeared on the 7-inch single. And then on the other side, as he put it, to just fill up the tape, he recited another long piece that's a kind of fable called The New God. And so when I did that reissue, I was looking for something extra, and this was just perfect. And then I just went in and I improvised some music around that long piece. I had his voice in my headphones, and I thought, well, the instrument to use on this is the sacred Lootar. So I took that in and tuned it up. You know, I've never played it before, and this
Mhm.
little melody came out of it. I really felt like it's making me shiver now. I felt this really strong spectral presence of Renee. It was Renee behind me, guiding me. And I did this thing in one take.
Wow.
It's almost as
Yeah.
if like I was channeling something. I was just a conduit. And that was very, very special. Yeah. So it's on the CD of the Renee Halkett collab.
There was a reissue, right? The 20th anniversary
Yeah.
reissue. But
Yeah.
initially, the amazing thing about this is that the amazing thing about this is how it was recorded. I know you took a cassette player and you met up with him.
Well, I did. Yeah, no, I just he was telling me about his poetry, and when I visited him in Cornwall and his little house there, he recited some poems, which I thought were wonderful. And then we came up with this idea of setting it to music. No, I suggested that I could set this to music, Rene. And he loved the idea. And he said, well, let me record it, and then I'll send you a cassette, which is what he did. I still have that cassette. Yeah. So you hear, like, it's recorded in his kitchen. So you hear the birds outside the window, and it's all part of the charm of it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I mean, if people want to check that out on your Bandcamp, on your website,
Yeah.
David J. I mean, there's so many things you can check out. I mean, this is like that's one of the reasons that you're so avant-garde. You're the avant of avant-garde, you know, just doing all those wonderful things. Now, I know you also did a lot of collaboration with other artists, Asia Argento for one, and then
Yeah.
Regina of the Frozen Roses. How did you connect with her?
Well, we corresponded a long time ago via email. God, I can't remember how I initially connected with her. It's so long ago. It might have been something to do with Genesis PRH. Anyway, I had her email, and we had been back and forth, and she wanted to make art with me, as she put it. And so we'd spoken about this, but never got down to doing it. And then I was recording with Anton Newcomb in Berlin from Brian Jonestown Massacre. He wanted to work with me, so he invited me over to his studio, and we didn't have anything formed. We were just going to improvise and come up with something, which I love doing, and he's really good at. So we came up with this music, both of us, and then he asked if I had any spoken word or anything surreal, poetry-wise. And on the plane over, I'd written this piece about a girl I just met in Italy, and that was there, you know. And I just spontaneously, I said, let's try this, and I read it, and it worked perfectly with the music. And then I finished it, and I thought, it needs something else. And then I thought, well, I'm hearing Azia's voice on this, that husky, you know, like sexy voice. And I knew that Anton had worked with Azia and was in touch with her. So I suggested this idea to him. And he said, I'll phone her now. She was in New York. She was actually in bed with a cold. But we just put this idea to her, and I described a scenario to do with the lyric, and I asked her to interpret what I just said and come up with her own words, and to record it in Italian and also in English.
Yeah, beautiful.
Because it was appropriate, because the song is about an Italian woman. And yeah, just again, really spontaneous, you know, it all just came together.
And I know you also collaborated with Rose McGowan.
Yeah, it was the same time.
Yeah.
And again, you know, I met Rose in LA a couple of times, and she wanted to collaborate, and I was into that idea. We didn't have a project at the time, and then, you know, I was working on that album, and I wanted to revisit this song, the auteur, and I thought this, you know, she could be very appropriate again to the song because of her history with you know, the whole Me Too business, you know. And the song, when I wrote that song, the Me Too didn't exist, although the situation that, you know, that is dealing with certainly existed. So it became more loaded and more pointed, and it was a song that was timely in its revival. And I just thought, oh, I think she could do something powerful on this, you know. So we did the little spoken word thing at the end, and she loved the song. She very much identified with the song on a very personal level.
Yeah. Oh wow.
And so that's how that came together. Again, just really spontaneous, you know, not a
Yeah.
lot of planning.
I mean,
Just
that's how they work, right? Spontaneous.
best ideas work like that. And there's no,
Mhm.
there's a flow, you know, and you just tune into that flow.
Right, right. And I know you remix with you worked with Julian Shaw Taylor, the Singularity, in a remix
Yeah.
last year. That's another collaboration.
Yeah.
It's
I
called
did quite a lot of recording with Julian. I did some recordings in lockdown that have turned out great. One, we did a collaboration with him and Bob Margalev, who's an incredible, you know,
Yeah, Stevie Wonder.
did all the classic Stevie Wonder,
Hmm. Yeah,
Innovisions and Superstition,
love that.
Living for the City. And he produced a track of mine for free, and it was like a masterclass, I tell you. Called the song is called "Hurt You."
Oh yeah, wow.
Hurt You. It's I released it on Patreon. A lot of all these tracks actually, I did 3 with Julian only on Patreon. So this
Yeah, I know. We're gonna talk.
them exclusive up until a point, you know. Sometimes I keep them exclusive forever. So the only way you can be privy to these songs and this music and art, whatever I'm doing, is if you are a member of my Patreon. Just
Yeah, and that's exactly why you release. You're gonna be releasing an album. It's called "What the Patrons Heard,"
yes,
and these are all songs. I know there's 10 songs, and the release date is March 25th on Give and Take. And I know these were tracks um, that were I guess released on your to your subscribers, right? The
yeah,
Patreon subscribers from 1986 to 2020.
yeah,
So you kept them there. So you have to be a subscriber, right?
yeah.
How did you manage to keep that there and not releasing it? I mean, that's really hard. Is that hard to do? Just like, okay, well,
Not really. I mean, I've got so much in my archive, and
yeah.
I release tracks when they're right, when they're appropriate, you know, and it's if they fit in with an album. And sometimes the songs they become kind of lost, you know. They're shelved, and they're not shelved because they're not good. They're shelved because they didn't quite fit in with the
Mhm.
album that I was making at the time when I recorded them. So I just put them on the back burner with the idea of, you know, one day they'll come out to play, as it were. But Patreon's been a great outlet for me, considering that I have this archive to let these tracks be released, but exclusively to the patrons. And I mean, it's a small club. There's only about 100 people in there. I'd like to make it a lot bigger. Uh,
Yeah. So that's patreon.com/David J.
yeah,
They wanted to be a member, and you can actually, if you go to that page, you can actually see how you want to be a member. There's different formats, right?
yeah. And I think it's very
Yeah.
reasonable in that, I mean, you can sign up for just $1 per item that I put out. And you can also cap that. And so this is on a monthly basis. So if you want to put in $1 and you cap it at one thing, if I come up with 3 things, 3 songs or whatever, then you're only charged $1. You're not charged $3. Similarly, if you can be $100, I've got some $100 patrons, and of course they're like top tier patrons, and they get extra things. They get invited to shows, like
Mhm.
I'll send them postcards when I'm on the road, things like that.
Wow,
Um,
that's pretty good.
like little private things, you know. But there's I mean, ranges from what $1 to $100.
Yeah, and if people want to find that out, I mean, they got to be a patron subscriber, or else they wouldn't know, right? Because
Yeah,
it's very exclusive.
yeah,
Um, Now I know that I know you're going to be celebrating your birthday in April 24th.
yeah.
I remember you're a Taurus, which is I'm a big astrology person, and now I
Mhm.
also know that on one of your birthdays, maybe a few years ago, I know Darwin surprised you with a special gift. And I believe it's
Yeah, the kind
there
of
it is. Now, is that available only to the patrons? To the patrons on?
No, it's not available to anybody. I mean,
Oh,
I gave it away to friends.
oh my God. I gotta have a copy of that because
We got a dozen of the, not even that, maybe 6 copies of this, you know. But it's something that I would make available as a special item for the patrons, you know, in some way. It's typical of like for the top tier patrons, you
Mhm.
know, that first come first served. You know, I could put this up, and then
Yeah. So it's called so I know that there's specific people in there. I know Patfish is in there, Soraya. Who else is on that? For people that I don't know if you want to release that information,
yeah,
but
these are all like friends doing covers of my songs,
mhm.
and it was a complete surprise. I wasn't expecting this at all. Jenny V, Damien Youth did a really good one. Um, Anthony Vaquero, Michael Berg, Brent Meyer. Yeah, some really great covers on that.
Yeah. And I Soraya, who's a Tuvan throat singer, who actually will perform that a really beautiful. I mean, you guys did a great job with Bella Lugosi's Dead, you know, at the concert in San Francisco that I saw with Joe Tracy
Chapel, yeah.
that was just a wonderful concert and just that whole with him singing with that powerful voice thing. Wow, just amazing.
Yeah, he'll be
Yeah.
opening for Bauhaus in Portland because that's his home city.
Oh, okay.
Just that gig.
Oh, yeah. So
Worked for us in Mexico City recently, which was wonderful because his family's all from there.
so are you still doing? I know you're still doing your living room. Um,
Well, I am, but I've put everything on hold to do the Bauhaus gigs. You know, we've all agreed that the only shows that we'll be doing this year are Bauhaus shows.
no, okay,
Besides,
okay,
I'm doing a few DJ gigs. I've got.
okay, yeah, yeah, and maybe one in Hawaii, right? Pretty soon.
Yes, I'll be
Yeah, probably sometime in the year, in the end of the year, somewhere around there.
great. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, yeah. Okay, wow. I'm excited. Yeah, so you know, for the living room gigs, I know you're not doing it now, but in the future, how does somebody wanna what's the process of that? Like if somebody like a promoter out there or somebody who wants to have a living room with David J, how do they go about?
They usually approach me via my manager Darwin through through one of my sites. You know, sometimes it's just Facebook or
Yeah.
Darwin's contact is up there on Bandcamp. Sometimes it comes through that. I get it's been very successful, and I get so many offers. I turn down a lot, so it's nice now because I'm super selective over where I go, and because there are so many, I can plan an itinerary, you know, that
Mhm.
makes sense, you know. So do I do 3 in a row or 4 in a row in a certain area, and it's not just America; it's international.
Right, right. Yeah. That's so I guess that's
I
for the
love
next I guess for next year.
really love doing them. I'd much rather do that than play in a club.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Very different experience.
So the album, you know, what the patrons heard is going to be released on March 25th on Give and Take, and um, I know there's 10 tracks there, and I know one of them I really like is called Scott Walker, and I know that wasn't one of your, I know you released that earlier on, right? I remember. Um, I know it's
Only through Patreon.
oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's I know you must be a big fan of the singer
Yeah.
composer.
Yeah, the lyrics to that, it's a poem by my friend Jeremy Reed,
Yeah.
and I set it to music with my other friend Michael Berg. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's also an avant-garde musician in very many ways, you know,
Yes.
and I always loved his cover of My Death. I know David Bowie did it and
Yes.
Jackie and all this stuff. I know he's a big
Brother
fan
Jack
of
Brel.
Jacques Brel, and yeah, that's what I always love, that line of artists, that, David Bowie and yourself. And I just see it as yeah.
You know
So
the
that,
story of how Scott discovered Jacques Brel?
how did he discover it?
He apparently he was at the Playboy Club. I think it's the one in Chicago.
Oh,
And he chatted up some bunny girl, and it ended up going back to her flat. Actually, no, it was in London, and they were playing records, and
yeah.
she had all the she had the Scott Walker albums, the solo albums, and he hadn't heard. He had the Jacques Brel albums rather, and he hadn't heard Brel at that point. But then she turned him on to this Belgian poet, Brel, very emotive, and he fell in love with it and decided, there and then he was going to cover the songs, and he certainly did. He covered a number. I mean, at least an album's worth. Yeah.
So a lot of these tracks are from your Patreon subscribers. So you got Vampire Blues, which is a cover of what is the name of that? Yeah, that singer.
Julian.
Yeah, yeah. So there's several of them, and they haven't been released yet, but they're going to be. But I think that's wonderful how you're doing this. So I know you have more songs in there. Are you gonna do this again? I know you're gonna keep it.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I mean, why did you decide to do this on this?
It's a taste of what is available on the Patreon site.
Okay.
Yeah. And hopefully it'll bring more people to
Oh,
that.
yeah.
And I'll have more patrons,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well, like I said, there's all this stuff that there's hidden gems in there. People want to check that out. And I know you released your book back in 2017 when you came to Hawaii. I remember the book, Who Killed Mr. Moonlight, Bauhaus, Black Magic, and Benediction.
Yes.
And that's still available on even on Amazon.
Yeah, there's only a few left though. It's nearly sold out, the second edition, apparently. And I just heard that it's just been published in Russia, which is strange timing, but there you go.
Really?
Yeah, the Russian language version.
Oh.
There's also strong possibility of a Spanish language version coming up.
So, I know there's a Bauhaus tour also coming out, and I'm going to be at the San Francisco one in the Masonic. So this is the first tour in 16 years.
Yeah,
that's what I heard. Yeah, it seems like, wow, that's a long time ago. I remember you guys did that. I didn't get a chance to go, but I'm really excited for that. Are you guys preparing for that? And I know there's a list of dates here already. I see all the. You're going to start out in is it California? I can't remember if it's California.
World, which is a 2-day festival in Pasadena in May, and we do those 2-day gigs, and then we do a run up the coast, heading north.
Yeah. So this is
to Europe. We go to Barcelona Primavera Festival, playing there, and then we're doing a big festival in Greece.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's later in the year then.
Yeah, there's some here and there. There's
Wow, how exciting! Yeah, I know. I mean, I think some tickets are sold out already, but some might still be available.
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah.
Wow, I'm so excited. Okay. Wow. So if anybody want to check out your latest album, What the Patrons Heard, they can check you out. They can find that on your website, davidjonline.com, and also on your Bandcamp page, davidjofficial.bandcamp.com, and of course your Patreon page, which people should subscribe if they want to get those secrets, hidden gems. Patreon.com/DavidJ.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm really excited. Thank you. It's always wonderful to talk to another vampire.
Okay.
We can release the bats now.
indeed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Nocturna.
let me just turn this off for a moment.